I I was okay. Okay. Let me okay, look. Things are out of control already. I was going to do just a big season 4 video for Invincible once it was over, and I'm still going to do that. But there's been a lot to talk about in the interim, like that hell episode that wasn't super popular, and more recently, last week's episode, as of the day that I probably will schedule to go live, the beginning of the Viltrumite War, has been regarded as the best episode of the series by a lot of people. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about, but right now, I'm I'm not gonna act like I'm somebody that read all of Invincible as it was running. It took me a couple years to pick it up because it started in 2003, and I was 3 years old, and my dad didn't want me reading a comic quite like that at 3 years old. So I started reading Invincible maybe 5 or 6 years into its run. Ryan Otley, I'm pretty sure, was already the lead artist. I had to go back and do a lot of catching up, and I read up until the reboot arc started, and that was where I tapped out. If you don't know what the reboot arc is, don't look it up. Let that surprise you in season 6. But I didn't finish Invincible because a lot of things had already happened that I wasn't a fan of, and I could tell that it was going in a direction that I didn't particularly like. Now, I don't anticipate really being a fan of Invincible's adaptation on Amazon Prime post season 5. I think that unless you start overhauling a whole lot of stuff all at once, that final third of Invincible is just not my favorite story, you know. But in the spirit of changes having been made, it's entirely possible that they will rework that and make it better. But I do want to talk about some of the changes that have been made to Invincible. They kind of irk me. There are some changes that are very superficial when they could be deeper, and there are some changes that seem to run very deep that don't really need to have been there in the first place. I mean, they're right in your face, like, oh, Mark and Debbie are Asian this time around. And that's cool. I wish it meant something. You know, I can appreciate them altering the characters to match their actors. I imagine Steven Yeun was brought on very early, because he and Robert Kirkman have already collaborated on something before. He might have been the first person that they cast. And so it's like, well, let's make Mark Korean. Well, we're going to need to find him a Korean mother. All that's fine. I have no problem with him being race swapped like that, because they never said that he had to be white. And besides, his Viltrumite genes are so strong that he's going to be purely Viltrumite by the end of the story anyway. But, like, I don't know. You know, he wears shoes in the house. They don't ever eat anything. I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything. You know, okay, alternatively, you compare that to Simon Williams being black in Wonder Man, and they went the extra mile. They made him Haitian in a way that is authentic. You know, in a way that lines up with people's lived experience. Do that, but for Korea. With Mark, is it that difficult? It seems like it must be. Beyond that, making Amber black in this version of the story, but also changing her personality to make her very unpleasant in season 1. I like her in season 2 and beyond. She's a lot better when she and Mark aren't or not even when they aren't together, but like when she starts being reasonable. Because a lot of you guys might know that Amber was white in the comics, and that she did not, you know, break up with Mark and then refuse to reconsider based on the fact that Mark was invincible. She actually was really excited that Mark was invincible. She thought it was cool. She was dating his hero. I don't get the point in changing that character around so much, other than the pursuit of having her be more than just a girlfriend, by giving her agency and ambitions of her own, which I'm never going to disagree with. You're never going to see me say that they should take that female character and make her less interesting. However, and this is something that I said while criticizing Marvel Spider-Man back in 2018, you can have conflict with a love interest other than her just being unreasonable. She acts like she can't understand why Mark would lie to her about being a superhero, especially when he's been a superhero for maybe 3 months. You know, you're in high school, so everything feels really important, but you're not the love of his life. You know, it's like, you're not entitled to him telling you that secret, and the only reason that she changed her mind was because Nolan ended up beating Mark half to death, or 90% to death. That's the only difference maker in their relationship there. And in the case of Mary Jane in the Spider-Man game, she's just doing reckless things and putting herself in harm's way, and then getting mad at Peter for trying to keep her alive when she can't dodge bullets at close range like he can. She's not super strong like he is. She can't sense danger like he can. So it's like, in your efforts to have something more than a damsel in distress, something more than just arm decoration for your male hero, you go so far in the opposite direction that the character is still just unenjoyable. So I don't get that. I don't get the motivation behind that change. Another thing that changes is the gender of certain characters, and how long they get to live. Shrieking Ray was a man in the comics and was killed during that Lizard League attack on the missile base that it was adapted in season 2. In the animated series, Shrieking Ray is a woman, and she survives. And you wonder why. Well, Rexplode is going to die soon. Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to redeem Rex and make him into a likable guy so that his death is meaningful? Why do we do that? We'll put a woman in his life that he treats correctly, that he'll treat her right. Not like he did Eve, not like he did Kate, but he's good to Ray, he's kind to Ray, he's mature towards Ray, and then he dies. And Ray just so conveniently gets an arc where she just wants to retire from being a superhero, so that once Rex is dead, Ray doesn't have to ever appear again. We took a character who barely mattered in the original material, changed the gender, not a problem in of itself, but we did so and kept them alive longer than they were supposed to be alive for the purpose of building up another character. So now that that character is gone, this other character is gone. I'm not like, call me woke all you want, but isn't it reductive to make a character female just to uplift a male character? And you can say that about Invincible at large. It struggles with female characters. It really, truly does. Pardon the interruption, it's your boy Toxic Boyo, and I wanted to take a brief moment to let you know about the Toxic Touch Productions Patreon. I'm not currently monetized on YouTube, but I still want to bring you the best content that I possibly can. I want to make those videos that you love, and I want them to be the best that they can be. But I need a little help. That's where you guys come in. If you want to support me directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/ToxicTouchProductions, or click the link in the description or the pinned comment. For even just $5 a month, you can get your name included in the credits at the end of the video, gain access to exclusive channels on the Discord, and you get specialized merch at no extra cost. It only gets better as the tiers go higher. Go check it out. Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting my dreams. Now let's get back to the video. We can also touch on Tech Jacket being a female character this time, named Zoe. It's too early to tell where that's going. You can speculate that they're doing it to set up a little mini romance between her and Oliver. I don't necessarily think that's the case, because I can remember that Oliver is half Thraxan and will be a grown man in a month. Like, legitimately, he will be an adult very soon. So I don't think that having him be with this underage hero, at least not for long, I don't think that's the way that they're going to go. Another change that I would like to point out is, let's talk a little bit more about Tech Jacket, because not only did we change Tech Jacket's gender, but we also made her a jobber. I can't remember the name of the Viltrumite that she was fighting in the most recent episode, because he doesn't matter, Vlad or some shit. In the comics, Tech Jacket 1v1s this Viltrumite and wins. He beats him. In the show, she loses. Alan also loses in this episode. Alan won his 1v1 too. That's why Mark was able to take Conquest 1v1, because the others did their job. And so it kind of makes you wonder, why did we make such a big deal about recruiting Tech Jacket if she's going to be useless? You know, why change the gender and then make her significantly weaker? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the Keikaku is there, but maybe it'll lead to something meaningful. Who knows? Another change I would like to point out is about Mark himself. There's something that doesn't sit right with me about this version of the story. Like, there have been changes made with Mark in a few places. For instance, he doesn't lose a fight in the comics until he fights his father. So they had to move things around just to show Mark getting his ass beat more. But I think as much as I love season 1, I do think that it would still be a little bit more, you know, significant if his father was the first person that beats him in a fight. Like, yes, he does still lose to Battle Beast, but that happens after, and it's not nearly as bad. But one big change with Mark is he's very sanitized. Like, yeah, the show is edgy, he says the F word and whatever, but he's sanitized in a way that, like, you may recall in season 3, after Oliver kills the Mauler twins, he and Mark get into a debate about Nolan's philosophy, and Oliver says, well, don't you ever think that Dad was right? And Mark in the comics says, sometimes. Sometimes he finds himself agreeing with Nolan. That line is taken out of the show. This season, when he is trying to defeat the Sequids, he says, I won't let you take this planet. They've already been through enough. You can't have this planet. This is my planet. It's kind of evocative of Omni-Man saying, Earth isn't yours to conquer. You know? Nolan and Mark kind of have opposite arcs. Nolan is turning more human, Mark is turning more Viltrumite. And even in the most recent episode when he's fighting Conquest, and for the very first time in his entire superhero career, he begins the fight going for the kill. He wastes no time. He's like, this guy's gonna die right now, today. I'm going to kill him. He says something like, oh, did that knock the wind out of you? Or did you let your guard down and take a breath because you finally could, or something like that? Like, he's a little sadistic when he kills Conquest. They took that out. I don't know, like, black and blue suit Mark, that era, well, the first time that he wears the black and blue suit, that era is like, he's a little edgy, he's rough around the edges, he's angry, and he's taking his anger out on the people that he's fighting. The show is like going out of its way to not ever let Mark be that way. Mark is this golden, perfect child who never gives into his emotions. Like, yes, he still kills Russ, but like, he's a lot more torn up about it in the show than he was in the comics. And you can say that's a good or a bad thing. I just think that we're sanding the edges off of Mark. You know, Mark is not a perfect superhero. He has a lot of problems, and those problems get in the way of his ability to protect people sometimes. They get in the way of his ability to make good judgment calls sometimes. That's good. That's good for a character to have those flaws, but we're taking them away from Mark, and I don't get it. I truly don't understand why we would do something like that. You know, what is gained there? I really don't get it. Well, that's just me. But I get it, you know, I don't want you to hop in the comments and be like, well, it's an adaptation. The point of adapting is to make is to have differences. I get that. I completely get that. But I also feel as though that when we're making changes that affect the fabric of the character, maybe we've gone too far. You know, Invincible has a lot of fat to trim, so like keeping Shrieking Ray alive for an extra season, don't really know what the point of that is, other than, like I said, to lift up Rex. And like, it's not to say that I think every change that they've made for the show is bad, or that I don't agree with any of them. Obviously I do. I think that Debbie is the best character in the show. Legitimately, her or Alan. I love them both. Debbie, in the comics, taking Nolan back, it made sense for that version of the character. But one of the best things that this show did was create a version of Debbie who is so, you know, self-actualized and has core beliefs and values that she stands on. She has her own way of dealing with trauma, and we get to really see the struggle that she goes through with raising a super son and then having to raise another super son that's not even hers, that is her ex-husband's child from another marriage. You know, all she knows now is that as of a little while ago, he was still alive out there, but she's had to mourn and move on and all this stuff. So the most interesting thing about this episode for a lot of people before it came out is what's going to happen when Nolan and Debbie have that conversation, because in the comics, like I said, she takes him back. But this show has created a version of Debbie Grayson who would never even consider it. And I love that. I love that Debbie is such a well-established character in this world. If we could take a little bit of that and give it to Eve, that would be fantastic. You know, I think one of the reasons that I am frustrated about the change to Shrieky Gray and how it relates to Rex is because it really just goes to show that the majority of women characters in Invincible can't exist on their own. You know, they have to be attached to a male character. And, you know, I don't know. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to get on a soapbox. It's just that there are some changes being made from the original material that frustrate me. Agent Spider, anyone? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't honestly know if they would have, if Marvel would have, or Sony rather, would have allowed Spider-Man to show up. I mean, considering the fact that there is a Spider-Noir show coming to Prime this year that I think is TVMA, the chances are greater than zero. It's a little upsetting that they didn't ask, but you know. I am interested to see what changes are being made, especially because, like I said, we're heading towards a lot of stuff that is about where I stopped reading. I don't care about Rex and Amanda in the Flaxen Dimension. You couldn't pay me to care, you know? I don't want to see Anissa's next appearance after the next appearance. You know, and it's not because I don't think that you can have material like that in your story. I just think it has to be handled very delicately and very carefully, and I don't think Robert does a very good job of it. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I just want to pass a question off to you. What is the biggest change from the source material that you've noticed? And is it a change for the better or is it a change for the worse? And what is something that hasn't been adapted yet that you hope that they don't change too much? For me, I would probably say the whole thing with Argol and Thrag and Dinosaurus. That's all I can really say. I hope that all of that remains intact, but we'll see at the end of season 6. 6? Season 5, my bad. If I'm right about, you know, the rate at which we're adapting story, that will be in season 5. Maybe not at the end. Maybe that'll be like a mid-season thing. I don't know for sure, because I think I know how this season's gonna happen. Potential spoilers. I'm pretty sure that this season will end with the Viltrumites coming to Earth and being like, hey, you can't win, okay? So just let's live here. Everything will be fine. But again, I could be wrong about that. I just think that'd be a really good cliffhanger to end the season on. Yeah, some things happen before that, but again, there's absolutely nothing stopping them from moving certain events around like they've been doing since the very first episode. Omni-Man does not kill the Guardians of the Globe right away. Also, another change. The Guardians of the Globe put up a much better fight against Omni-Man in the show than they did in the comics. I do like that. Anyway, that's actually all I got for you. I'll see you later.